Hey everyone and welcome back. I am so excited for this deep dive. We're going to be talking about something that I know a lot of you out there are super passionate about, and that is pet-safe houseplants.
Yeah,
And we have a really interesting source for this one, right?
we do. This is a fun one.
It is fun and also important, right?
Yeah.
Because we love our plants, we love our pets, and
Right.
we got to keep everybody safe.
Yeah, so how do you find that balance of having this beautiful, indoor jungle, but also making sure that you're not poisoning your furry friends?
Exactly. And, it's funny because this source that we're looking at today, it's originally in Spanish. We had it translated. And something that I guess you call him like a plant expert, really emphasizes in this piece is their frustration with how much conflicting information is out there.
Yeah, they seem very frustrated by that.
Right. Imagine being a plant expert and even you are I don't know what to believe.
Right, and they even call out the lack of scientific data on a lot of this stuff. So you can find all these websites that'll say oh yeah, this plant is totally fine for pets, and then others will be absolutely do not let your pet near this. It's deadly. And how do you even begin to
Right.
make those decisions as a pet owner and a plant lover?
Exactly. And that's why I think this deep dive is so fascinating, right? Because it's not even just here's a list of plants that you can have and plants that you can't. It's more about equipping ourselves to
Right.
vet the information that's out there so that we can make the best choices for our own homes and our own pets.
Yeah. And this expert even says, what other factors beyond even the ones we're going to talk about today might be relevant in your specific home environment, because every home is different. Every pet's different.
That's such a good point. It's funny because I'll be the first to admit I see a plant that I think is pretty and I'm I need it without even thinking about,
Yeah.
is this a good fit for
Right.
my lifestyle or, my cat?
Well, and I think the first misconception that this expert really wants to clear up is just this idea that if a plant is toxic at all, that just having it in your home is dangerous.
Right. It's emitting toxins into the air.
Exactly. And they're no, that's not how it works. The
Okay.
real concern is ingestion.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about your cat brushing up against a plant and then getting sick.
Right. Oh, thank goodness. Because I've definitely been a little bit wary of certain plants. Thinking oh, is that going to hurt my cat just by being in the same room? And it sounds like that's not really the case.
Yeah. So you can still enjoy those air purifying benefits without worrying about your cat, spontaneously combusting if it gets too close.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. But speaking of, plants that are safe for pets,
Yeah.
this expert does highlight 5 in particular that based on their research, they feel very confident are 100% safe. And they even say I'm probably being overly cautious
Yeah.
by leaving some off this list. But I just haven't seen enough evidence to definitively say
Yeah.
that they're okay for pets. So
Right.
major props to them for,
Absolutely.
erring on the side of caution.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to our furry friends, it's always better to be safe than sorry.
Exactly. So let's dive into this list. What is the first pet-safe plant superstar that we're going to talk about?
So first up, we've got the selva, also known as the maidenhair vine. It's a gorgeous plant that can really bring a touch of the tropics into your home.
Oh, I love that. And I can already picture it trailing off of a bookshelf or something.
Exactly. It's got these really delicate cascading leaves. It's very pretty, but I will say it is a bit high maintenance.
Okay.
So it really thrives in high humidity, which makes sense, coming from a rainforest environment. So you'll need to mist it frequently. Maybe even think about getting a humidifier if you live in a particularly dry climate.
So maybe not the best choice for a beginner plant parent or someone who travels a lot?
Yeah, probably not the best choice if you're going to be gone for weeks at a time and nobody's there to water it.
Right. Or if you tend to underwater your plants, which I'm occasionally guilty of.
But if you are up for the challenge and you can provide that humid environment, it can be a really stunning addition to your home.
I bet. And you know what I'm curious about? Are there other plants on this list that also require that rainforest-like humidity?
Actually, the next two are pretty similar in terms of their care requirements. We've got the Troicana and the areca, and while they look quite different from the selva and from each other, they both really thrive in those high humidity environments.
So we've got our humidity-loving crew.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's 3 down, 2 to go. What's next?
All right, this next one is really cool. It's called the prayer plant, or if you want to get scientific about it, the Maranta Leuconeura.
Okay, the prayer plant already made me intrigued.
Right, just the name itself kind of sparks curiosity, and it's all thanks to its unique leaves.
Okay, what about the leaves?
So during the day, they unfurl and spread out, but then at night, they fold up almost like hands clasped in prayer.
Oh, wow. So it's like this whole like show that the plant puts on.
It really is. It's this beautiful display of natural movement, and it's kind of mesmerizing to watch.
I bet I can imagine that would be really cool to have like on your bedside table.
Right, or even like on a windowsill where you walk by it every day and you can kind of see the leaves changing position.
Yeah, that's so cool. Okay, I have to ask though, because you did mention the salvo was high maintenance.
Yeah.
Is the prayer plant also a bit finicky?
They're not quite as demanding as the selva, but they definitely need a certain level of care when it comes to watering and humidity.
Oh. Okay, so again, maybe not the best choice for someone who's just starting out.
Yeah, I'd say if you're brand new to plant parenthood, maybe start with something a little easier.
Makes sense. And this reminded me too, even within a specific type of plant, the toxicity can vary a lot depending on like the specific cultivar, right?
Yeah.
That's wild. I mean, it's like there's so many varieties of like even just one type of plant.
Right, it's like anything else in nature, there's so much diversity.
Okay, so we've got one more plant on our 100% safe list, right?
We do, and this one might come as a surprise because it's a fern.
Okay, a fern, huh? Interesting.
Yeah, the passion fern. So this is a really beautiful feathery fern, and it's one that our expert specifically calls out as being safe for cats.
Okay, that's good to know because like I feel like a lot of times you hear ferns and cats and it's like, oh no, like danger, danger.
Right, exactly, because ferns can be kind of tricky, but
Yeah.
this is one where, based on the research that's out there, our expert feels confident saying like, yeah, this one's okay to have around your feline friends.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But it does make me think about something that you mentioned earlier about how like even beyond just like a plant being technically safe, there are other factors that come into play, right? Like our individual homes and our pets' habits.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this whole conversation so interesting, right? It's
Mhm.
not as simple as just like, here's a list of good plants, here's a list of bad plants. You have to think about the whole picture.
Right? Like I'm picturing my apartment right now. It's not exactly a humid rainforest. Like it gets pretty dry in here, especially in the winter. So I'm wondering like, would that even be a deal breaker for some of these plants, even if they are technically safe for pets?
You're already thinking like a pro. That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, you really hit the nail on the head. Just because a plant is considered non-toxic doesn't mean it's like invincible. Factors like humidity, temperature, light exposure, all of that can affect a plant's health and potentially even its toxicity.
Wait, really? So like a plant could become more toxic if it's stressed out?
It's possible. I mean, I wouldn't say it's like a guarantee, but yeah, certain plants under stress, they might produce more of certain compounds that could be harmful if ingested.
Wow. Okay, so it's like a whole other layer of things to consider.
It is, but I think the main takeaway here is just being aware of those nuances, right? It's not about living in fear of your houseplants, but just being informed and making smart choices.
I like that. Informed and smart, not scared and deprived.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, but on that note, I have to imagine that not everyone is like down to create a mini rainforest in their living room. Are there any safe options for those of us who are maybe a little bit more low maintenance?
Of course there are. And our expert had those folks in mind too. They actually recommend two plants in particular that are known for being super resilient and low maintenance.
Okay, hit me with it.
All right, so first up, we've got the classic snake plant, or as it's known in fancier circles, Sansevieria.
Oh my gosh, stop right there. I love snake plants. I have them everywhere.
They're great, aren't they?
They are so chic and modern, and I feel like I cannot kill them no matter how hard I try.
And that right there is the magic of the snake plant. It thrives on neglect.
I'm like the queen of plant neglect, so it's a match made in heaven. But wait, I had no idea. They were also good for pet owners.
It's not just about their easygoing nature either. Remember how we were talking about tough leaves?
Yeah.
The snake plant is like the poster child for tough leaves. Those thick, almost succulent-like leaves are a major deterrent for most pets.
That makes sense. They're not exactly like the most inviting things to chomp on.
Exactly, and even if a pet does take a nibble, those tough leaves make it really hard to actually get to any of the parts of the plant that might be harmful.
Oh, that's so interesting. It's like they come with their own little suit of armor.
Right, exactly.
I love it. Okay, so snake plants are awesome. What's the other low maintenance superstar?
Get ready to meet the ZZ plant.
The ZZ plant.
This one is basically indestructible.
No way.
I'm serious. It tolerates low light, infrequent watering. It can even handle a little bit of forgetfulness from its owner.
Okay, that's amazing. I need one in my life immediately.
They're great.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we've talked about all the good stuff, but I know our expert also had some words of caution about other plants that are maybe a little bit riskier.
Yeah, they definitely want to make sure that people are aware that this list of 5 safe plants is not exhaustive, and that there are other plants out there that even if they're not like deadly poisonous, they can still cause some problems if your pet decides to take a bite.
Right. Like I'm picturing those plants that maybe have like irritating saps or something like that.
Exactly. And the expert specifically mentions Dieffenbachia. You might know it as dumb cane.
Oh, yeah. I've seen those around. They have those big dramatic leaves.
They do. They're very striking, but they contain these things called calcium oxalate crystals.
Calcium oxalate crystals.
I
What
know.
even are those?
So they're basically these microscopic little needle-like structures, and if your pet chews on a plant that contains them, it can cause a lot of irritation and swelling in their mouth and throat.
Oh, that sounds so painful.
Yeah, it's definitely not fun. So that's one to be really careful with, especially if you have pets that are known to nibble.
For sure.
Yeah.
What about croton? I've always loved crotons because they're so colorful, but I feel like I've heard some shady things about them.
Crotons are gorgeous. They really are. But yeah, they do have a bit of a reputation for being a little bit finicky. They don't love it when their environment changes too much.
Drama queens?
A little bit. And in terms of toxicity, they produce a sap that can cause some mild skin irritation. And if they ingest it, it could lead to some digestive upset.
Okay, so maybe not the best choice for households with very curious pets or people with sensitive skin.
Probably not the best idea.
This is so interesting, though. I'm learning so much. I feel like I need to go through my whole plant collection now.
I know, right? It really makes you look at your plants differently.
It's like I'm seeing my plants in a whole new light now. You know what I mean?
What? It's like you've unlocked a secret level of plant parenting.
Totally. And speaking of secret levels, remember that question our expert brought up about like other things that might impact plant safety, like beyond just like the type of plant itself?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, what about those unique factors in our homes that could make a difference?
Exactly. And I'm thinking like even just simple things like, the type of pot you're using or where you place a plant. Like that could all play a role, right?
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. A hanging planter with these like trailing vines. That's like an open invitation for a playful cat to bat around.
Oh my gosh, yes. My cat Luna would be all over that.
Right, exactly. But that same plant, if you put it in like a sturdy pot on a high shelf, suddenly it's not so interesting anymore.
Okay, that's a really good point.
It's all about thinking like a pet,
Yeah.
trying to anticipate those potential hazards.
I love that, like getting inside their little furry heads for a minute.
Exactly. And, something else that our expert really emphasized was the importance of observation.
Oh, interesting.
Like, they really encourage people to pay attention to how their pets behave around their plants.
Oh, that's such a good idea.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm so guilty of just being like, oh no, you can't be over there with the plants. But I haven't really like watched to see if she's actually interested in them or not.
Right. And every pet's different. Some pets might be really attracted to certain textures or smells. Others might be really into digging in the soil.
Okay, so it's like plant detective work, but with your pet.
Precisely. You got to gather those clues.
I'm into it. I'm ready to become a pet-safe plant detective.
I love it. I think you're well on your way.
This has been so eye-opening. I feel like I've learned so much today.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much there is to consider when it comes to plants and pets.
Right. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is just like the importance of informed decision making. Like it's not enough to just Google like, is this plant safe or not, You
Yeah.
really got to think about all these different factors and do your research.
Absolutely. It's about being a conscious plant parent, for your own peace of mind and for the safety of your furry friends.
So well said. Well, I don't know about you, but I am feeling very inspired to maybe go spruce up my plant corner,
As you should.
make it a little more pet friendly.
I love it. I'm sure your cat will appreciate it too.
I hope so. But for now, I think we're going to have to say goodbye to all of our lovely plant-loving listeners out there. But before we go, I do have one last little food for thought. What are some of those unique factors in your home that might be influencing your plant choices? Think about it. And until next time, happy planting and keep those furry friends safe.